and welcome to Telling the Tale. It's the podcast where we'll talk about every single one of Telltale's mini narrative adventure episodic video games. I'm your host, Mitchell Farley Wolf, and I'm joined as always by Dustin Cornelius, you know him well, Jackson!
Mitchell, I'm ready to party. I'm ready. I hope you bring lots of spaghetti.
Okay, I don't know about that one. Is it related to the episode?
Not even.
No. Was there a song that sounds like?
That's from the Garfield and Friends theme song.
Yeah, there's nothing there. Okay, so we're going to be talking about Guardians of the Galaxy Episode 2, Under Pressure. Guardians of the Galaxy, the Telltale series, I should say. That's more specific. Released on June 6th, 2017. Directed by Jason Latino, a name we've seen a lot of times. Designed by Emily Grace Buck, another name we've seen a lot of times. Brian Freyermuth, absolutely seen a lot of times. And Matthew McManus. Tons of people we've seen a lot of times.
Look at all these people.
Yeah, written by Nicole Martinez, Jessica Krause, and Timothy Williams. Again, we've seen these names. We're getting to the point where, like, these names are old friends. These names are our old buddies.
Yeah, we broke bread together.
We were friends, man.
I met your family, man.
So we are now into the thick of Guardians of the Galaxy, the Telltale series. If you've been catching up with the podcast as we've been releasing it, you might know that we took a little bit of a break. Just some real life stuff came up, and then there were holidays, so we're catching up now to finally get to episode 2 of Guardians of the Galaxy.
We did a good job. We did a good job playing episode 2, I think.
Well, we did it individually, so I'm excited to see what you mean by that.
Yeah.
I feel like I played it. Yeah.
Yeah, you know what? You killed it, Mitchell. You want to talk about potential? You've got it.
Yeah. So Guardians of the Galaxy episode 2, Under Pressure. Here's something that I noticed immediately. It was my first note about the episode.
Tell me.
And it sort of just continued the whole way through. I felt like the audio was noticeably a little fucky the whole time.
Yes. I feel like about like halfway into it, I just thought to myself, is there supposed to be music in this game?
Yeah, so that was a thing. There were some scenes that didn't have music that
felt
at least
like they
based
should,
on the
right?
last episode you would assume would.
But I wasn't sure if it was like the episode not having music, or if I was like thinking, is this just one of those games where like so much is happening that it doesn't need music, or what? Like, would music be a nuisance? Maybe I'm going crazy. Maybe games don't have music.
Maybe they've never had music. But music does eventually come in, and or at least it did for me. If you never got any music, then that was a bug. But
I had some here and there. I feel like anytime it played the licensed music, I heard it.
Yeah.
But anytime there was like big action scenes, like later in the episode when they're chasing Nebula, just silence. Like, it had sound effects and voices and everything, but just if you weren't like firing at her ship or no one was talking, you didn't hear anything.
Well, more than that, like when there was normal music, like it actually was doing all the normal music kind of things. It still felt like the mix was so weird. With like the vocals compared to the music compared to the sound effect, and the music or the volume settings I found somewhat lacking. There's a master volume setting, and then you can just turn the music specifically up and down. But my problem was the sound effects were way too loud and the music was too quiet. So like I couldn't turn the music up anymore in comparison to anything else, and none of the other aspects of the volume had any settings attached to them.
Yeah.
So it was just weird.
For me, like, it just felt like there wasn't any music at all, but then I heard some here and there, and then during the credits, it had a song, but I could like barely hear it. I was like, that's That's not right, right?
It sounds like your settings might have been turned to have the music be lower. Did you do that maybe last time?
No, I went to the audio settings and I just had it all up.
Huh? Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, it was a weird one. Like the audio, it. I think like some sort of setting at some point might have been erroneously flipped as this episode went out for release. And
yeah, because it's not the game itself. Because last episode we didn't have these issues.
Yeah, totally. And this is like one of the weird things about Telltale games in comparison to other AAA games, because they're not independent, right? They're not indie games.
Right.
They are excuse me, they are AAA games, but like each of them is much more like a podcast than it is an audio drama or something, where it needs to just kind of get out there and be content really quickly. So there's sometimes like errors like these where, like with the audio mastering on this episode, you can tell like this was not intended. This was there's an understandable, I'm sure, mistake that was made or bug that was introduced.
Yeah,
but they're like just pumping these episodes out. They can't do much about it.
Yeah, it's weird.
Yeah.
I will say, I'll just come out and say it. I did like this episode despite it. It I feel like there were scenes that could have hit harder had I had music for them.
Sure. Yeah, I'm not really intending to imply that this was an overarching like taste-making quality of the episode. It's just something that is like, it's very noticeable. It's just a clear like, this could not have been understood to be there by the people that were releasing this episode. Otherwise, like it would have been, something would have happened. I'm not sure what exactly, but like it's significant.
I will say I'm glad we're in this together. I would have felt like such a fuckhead if it was only me who had bad audio.
No, right there with you, buddy. Right there with you.
Love that. See, that's why we make such a good team, is our audio is not good.
So, it was 1,000 years ago, so I would forgive you for not remembering, but for episode 1 of this game, you were pretty hot on it. You liked it, and I was pretty hard on it. I was it had some issues that I thought were very hard for me to stomach.
Right, I get that.
Yeah. This episode, I think, is a lot better for what I was caring about.
Yeah, I liked a lot in this episode. But it's also one of those things where, I mean, we've talked about it so much before, where once you hit like episode 2 or 3, you're getting into we're at the point where we're building up to the big stuff to come. Yeah. And it kind of feels like that here, like it really is just, okay, Rocket wants to do something, we'll do that. We got to get Nebula for stuff to happen later. Mm-hmm. It's set up for stuff to happen, which is totally fine. I think this episode does it well. It's just hard to feel like it's one of the big ones, but there are some big stuff that happened in it that I really liked.
Yeah, there's a lot of great Rocket stuff this episode, and Rocket was like he was on your shit list. Yeah, in kind of a good way though. Like not in a way that I thought made the game bad, just in a way that like, yeah, he is appropriately annoying here.
Right.
But in this episode, I just liked him.
He's great.
He had a very interesting arc, I think, in this episode. Mm-hmm. And we saw a lot of his backstory that we wouldn't see in movie form until Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, which is like 6 years after this game came out.
Yeah, that blew my mind. I had no idea they did that in this, like, so much sooner than they got to it in the movies. That's crazy. Yeah, and, like, obviously they would go more in depth with it in the movies, which is great, but just the fact that they did it here first, and they did it well too. I got a little choked up at it. I thought it was done very well.
Yeah, from my perspective, from my knowledge, the Rocket backstory is kind of a constant. It's not like it's done differently a lot of the time in all the different retellings of this story. But still, it was alarming to me, like how exactly similar it was, minus some details in the game because they don't have as much of a budget, obviously. But like how similar it really was to Rocket's backstory in Volume 3. If you haven't seen the movie, Rocket was a... do you remember the scientist's name? He was an experiment created by this one like really shitty scientist guy.
I don't remember the name of the scientist. It's been a little bit since and I only saw the movie like once. I loved the movie. I think it's great, but I don't remember like the
I'm there too. But like it's him and it's this otter. Is she an otter named Lila? Mm-hmm. So Rocket and Lila, they're these hyper intelligent animal hybrid things that are basically people but within animal bodies. And just like in the movie, Lila is scheduled to be destroyed and killed because she is no longer needed, and Rocket tries to bust her out, but he's unsuccessful at doing so.
Yeah, he manages to break out, but he doesn't manage to get her out with him.
Yeah, very, very emotionally impactful part of the game.
I was not expecting to get first of all, I wasn't expecting to get like this part of the story in this at all. I wasn't expecting this season to have like anything that like on that level of telltale emotional scenes.
Yeah, I will say that like I think it does lack a little bit of the punch having seen Volume 3 now. Because, you know, I knew exactly what was going to happen in that scene, and it did. It happened basically.
Right.
That said, like, still, really well done. If I hadn't seen the movie, it would have been great.
It still made me, like, feel the appropriate emotions it wanted me to feel.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so let's back up a little bit. Okay. The reason we see Rocket's backstory here is because at the end of the last episode, Peter Quill came back to life thanks to the Eternity Forge. They know how it works and what it does. It brings people back to life. And everyone's got their little thing that a dead person they wish they could bring back. Peter's got his mom, and you see a ton of visions with her in this episode as well, carrying on from episode 1. Rocket obviously has Lila, and you see that backstory in this episode because Rocket convinces Peter that they need to go to Half-World, which is where these experiments were done, to find Lila's body in order to try this on her. Drax has his family. Groot might have some plants somewhere. Everyone's got dead that they care about, and obviously I'm saying obviously right now. I shouldn't say obviously. I don't know if you're playing along with us. I have no idea about that. But Hala, the Kree, she's trying to bring back all the dead Kree, the whole Kree society that is now
that they have in the stasis tubes.
Yeah, they're in that expanse stasis. I guess this came first. Well,
that's true. In the expanse, they were in those Kree cases.
Yeah, they were in those Kree boxes. We're all going to be in a Kree box someday.
Wow. Deep.
Yeah, I was... This last week was Thanksgiving, and I was with some family members, and one of my cousins was like, "Yeah, we're both so old now. We're just full adults." And I said, "Yeah, you ever think about how one day you're gonna get just really sick, statistically speaking, and never get better?" And he just looked at me and was like, "That's like irrecoverably dark. I can't go back from that."
I gotta say, Mitchell, I think I agree with them.
Yeah,
that's a weird thing to say to someone.
I had potentially misjudged the tone of the conversation.
It happens.
Yeah, that's on me. I'm not saying like I got it right. I'm just saying, you know.
Right. I mean, you are right.
I was led to believe that was the conversation we were having. Not the case.
We're full-on adults. Yeah, did you ever think about how you'll get sick one day and never recover?
Yeah, and and then I followed it up with like, yeah, I mean, like how long you've already lived are you going to live again? 2? And then he's like, you got to stop. And I said, sorry. And then we kind of just sort of had a regular Thanksgiving after that.
You managed to get it back on the rails.
Yeah.
I'm glad that didn't ruin it.
2 was too small of a number for him to hear at that time. But, you know, it's what it is.
Hey, it happens.
Yeah, I mean, this whole season's about death, so technically that's on topic.
This whole podcast is about death when you think about it.
Yeah, it's a company's death. It's in some ways, like, especially for Guardians of the Galaxy Episode 2, I would be very surprised if there's ever going to be an in-depth conversation published about this episode ever again.
In particular, this one, Episode 2.
Yeah, I mean, like, the Walking Dead episodes get some love on YouTube and stuff. And,
right.
And some of, like, Sam and Max gets talked about. Wolf Among Us gets talked about.
But Guardians was smack dab. We've talked about it before, but how it's just smack dab in that era of we are sick of Telltale.
Yeah. Whether it was, like, fair or not, that was the verdict. And I kind of, like... It's hard to come down on either side of like how I feel about that.
Right. No, I agree.
Cuz it really is like we this episode's very interesting. It's got very cool moments. I like the stuff with Nebula. I like the stuff with Rocket and Lila. Even the Hala part of the story, which I can kind of tell is going to be the part that does not drive my interest the most.
Right.
It's going somewhere. It's doing something. At the same time, like, yeah, I can't really diss anyone that was feeling like it was too much of the Telltale's formula.
Yeah, I'm liking it, but it really is just like, how many times have we done this song and dance already?
Yeah,
Nothing against the episode.
last...
Like I said, I enjoy it, but
yeah,
I could not fault someone for just being like at their wits' end with this studio right now.
I told you last episode that like this is the first time I've really felt in the entire run of the podcast that like, oh, here's another one. It's the first time that it has felt like another one. Because I think a strength that Telltale had was, as much as they were using the same kind of mechanical and storytelling formula for a lot of these post-Walking Dead games, they were often done with just enough of like a very specific je ne sais quoi, a very specific tone or added mechanic or world building mood, something that made it very unique. I mean, like, I played all of Batman in black and white. That did not feel like another Telltale game. Minecraft kind of feels a lot like other Telltale games, but at the same time, you're looking at a giant square face that takes up like 82% of the screen. That's a lot of the screen, especially if you're playing on a television. You'll never see another game that looks like that. It's incredible. Even Minecraft doesn't look like that. It's because like there's never zoom ins on people's faces in actual Minecraft like that.
Right.
Yeah.
I get what you mean though. Like, this one doesn't really have that much to it other than, hey, do you like Guardians of the Galaxy? Here you go. Yeah. And luckily I do like Guardians of the Galaxy, so I am having a good time with this. But like, I wouldn't fault someone if they just could not get into it. And I guess I'm not sure where I land on that, because on one hand, I do feel like I've had that kind of feeling before, where as much as I love doing this podcast with you, Mitchell, there have been times where I've been like, oh, I gotta do this again this week. Like, there's sometimes where it feels like homework you're doing.
For sure. Yeah, no, I felt that way too. And like, I don't begrudge you for that at all. I could tell that like Game of Thrones was a trying experience for you to get through.
Right, but at the same time, it never feels like I'm just playing like content shoved out there. Like I didn't go into Guardians of the Galaxy being like, here's more Telltale I gotta sift through. I was like, oh, we're finally at Guardians of the Galaxy. Even though it is playing exactly the same, it is still doing it with a different property, and one that I really like. So even though like they all play pretty close to the same, each one does still feel like I'm going into something at least a little different.
Yeah, I agree. And like Walking Dead is thought of as being the sort of default Telltale game, but I don't feel that way, because Walking Dead is like, if you zoom out and you sort of blink a few times and look at it again with new eyes, Walking Dead is a really weird setting for this kind of game.
Yeah,
it's not action packed. You know, you think it is. You trick yourself into thinking like, oh, it's like an action horror kind of thing. It's not at all. There's entire Walking Dead episodes with like very minimal zombie interactions whatsoever.
Well, another thing that I think is interesting is you look at like any other Walking Dead games put out by like any other company, they are just like the typical action game you think you're going to get. They are just like mainly shooting zombies. And here it really does have a focus on the other stuff, the human aspect of it, which is great. I mean, there's a reason why they're kind of considered the Walking Dead games, and any other Walking Dead games just kind of fall to the wayside. No one's talking about like the Game Mill one that either recently came out or is coming out, because it's just what you expect. But these Telltale ones are very unique.
Yeah, I've heard interesting things about the VR one that came out a few years ago, but that was also kind of like VR games are not generating that kind of talk as well. But still, like with The Walking Dead, it's such an inspired take on that franchise. Even after having seen the show, which it's ostensibly modeled after, kind of, it's very much its own beast, and it's not the obvious way to take any of that franchise story.
Yeah, totally.
And The Wolf Among Us is similarly not obvious. Like that, I would not guess that's where you go next after Walking Dead. Or Tales from the Borderlands doesn't feel anything like Borderlands.
Exactly.
And this is kind of the first thing, and this is part of why I think this is in the position to be that like weakest part of that release cycle that they had post Walking Dead. The framework of Guardians of the Galaxies, Guardians of the Galaxy, just based on what that franchise is, what these characters are, what kinds of stories you see in Guardians of the Galaxy comics or the movie that was out at the time. It was just one. I guess in by this episode there's been 2 movies.
Right.
It is, for the first time maybe, exactly what you expect out of the Telltale formula. It is the guessable Telltale game for the first time. Everything else has been very, like, Minecraft is not something you would guess for that, right?
Right.
It's very surprising. By the way, just side note, within the time between we recorded last and now, there was a Gorillaz leak that there was going to be a Gorillaz Telltale game.
Oh my god, I can't believe we almost forgot to talk about it.
Yeah, that's wild.
That's insane to me. I love Gorillaz. I can't imagine. That would be so crazy if we were doing this podcast and we got to do a game based on Gorillaz.
Yeah, especially because with Gorillaz, like, for the audience at home, Dustin and I are both very big fans of Gorillaz. They get their like animated music videos. Those come out. Those happen. Mm-hmm. But there's just this massive history of like movies and TV shows that tried to happen and could not happen. Of the Gorillaz, like it's kind of a holy grail, the idea of long form Gorillaz content. Never happens. It never actually happens. The idea that maybe the only one that could have happened is a Telltale game would have been wild.
Isn't that the fuckiest thing?
I guess that's the same with Homestar. Or like that's actually what happened with Homestar.
Yeah.
The SBCG4AP is the only real long-form Homestar content.
There's no way you just knocked out all those letters.
That's what I normally call the game. I guess I didn't do it on the podcast, but yeah, SBCG4AP is Strong Bad's Cool Game for Attractive People. Great game.
Wow.
I think now unavailable on Steam.
Too bad. Yeah, it's a good game.
Yeah.
Imagine if we could say that about Gorillas. Imagine if we could say, yeah, Gorillas, that game ruled.
There was a possibility that I was going to come into ownership of a boat recently.
Ooh.
Did not happen, and it mostly came down to the fact that I don't have that money. But
that's a good reason to not have a boat, I think.
But I was very intent on calling it Mitchell's Cool Boat for Attractive People.
That would have been great.
The problem is in California, there's like some boat naming rules, like laws, actually, about what you can and can't call a boat, because they need to be registered with the Coast Guard.
Oh,
and like it needs to be identifiable. So like there's a certain number of characters you can name a boat, and like I could condense it down to Mitchell's Cool Boat. And that's just like, I don't get my last name in there. I don't get 4 attractive people in there.
Yeah, that would have just been like a shitty name for a boat, I think. Like you would get what it was short for.
Yeah, I would.
But if anyone else looked at it, if anyone else looked at it, they'd be like, Mitchell's Cool Boat. So did you just go with the first thing that came to mind?
Yeah. Yeah. I even tried to drop cool, but like Mitchell's Boat for Attractive People was just too long, like just by a hair.
Right.
Yeah, it's the impossible boat name.
That's maybe someday.
Maybe someday if I lobby some Californian representatives a little bit harder, I can make the world a more just place for certain kinds of boat names.
Be the change you want to see in the world.
Be the Gandhi you want to see in the boat names. I know.
Yeah, that's true.
But yeah, so Gorillas, that would have been crazy.
Oh man, I wonder what they would have done. Like, not to get off track from Guardians, but so when they were talking about doing a Gorillas movie, they were talking about doing it kind of like you know those Muppet movies in the 90s where they did like Christmas Carol and Treasure Island. It would be kind of like that, where like the gorillas themselves are like actors playing characters. So you probably, in this movie, it wouldn't have been like, the character wouldn't have been Murdoch. It would have been Murdoch starring as a character. So I wonder if they would have done that, or if it would have just been like a continuous story in the Gorillas lore, or what.
I know what I would want it to be. You ever seen the movie Hard Day's Night? The Beatles movie?
No, but I've heard of it and no details about it. I just haven't seen it.
Yeah, the Beatles made a bunch of movies. One of them was Help, which was all about like it was a James Bond-ish spy thriller where they tried to recover like some ring from some bad man, and like that was cute and fun. But Hard Day's Night was much more like, here's the life of the Beatles, but it's done in a kind of comedy way. And like they're just playing themselves as a band,
but it's kind of like a fictional, exaggerated version.
Yeah, it's I feel like it's really ahead of its time. If you watch it now, it feels a lot like The Office, a little bit, like the way it's just real life of these 4 like actual people that lived and did do this as a band, but then they made a comedy movie of it. I would kind of want to see that. For the Gorillas, where they're just sort of like, they're being a band, but like there's some extra like layer of comedy and plot that happens with them.
I mean, that's basically what Gorillas is. Like, they are just a band, but they get into these crazy situations.
Yeah. I mean, I guess that's what I would have wanted, though. Or
yeah, I would have been so down with that.
If all 5 episodes were different, like one is the Christmas Carol, one's Treasure Island, one's Haunted Mansion. Gorilla's Haunted Mansion would it's a good idea to not be good. Like it wouldn't be good, but it's, hey, you had the idea.
Good job. Congratulations.
Yeah, that would have been cool. we didn't get any like extra information about the Gorillaz Telltale game. It didn't seem like it got very far.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I wonder who pitched it. Was it Telltale who pitched it, or was it Gorillaz who were like, "Hey, we'd like to make this happen"?
It looked like it was Telltale people that made the materials that ended up being made public recently.
Gotcha.
But
okay.
I don't know if they started the conversation or if the Gorillaz people did. It could have been either way.
Too bad. We'll just have to live and wonder.
Well, what's weird also is that those pitch documents were dated like 2012.
Yeah. That was like right after Walking Dead.
It's like before the first season of Walking Dead ended.
Yeah.
Yeah, wild,
that's
right?
Crazy.
That's very early. I mean, it's not like early for Telltale stuff, but you don't get that huge balloon of Telltale using other licenses until after that point. So it's quite prescient.
You know what would have been interesting about that is I feel like that was like right on the cusp of when they were winding down after Plastic Beach, like before Humans was getting going. Because there was like a big period of just nothing Gorillaz for a long time.
Yeah, Humans was a long time after that, though. Humans was like, was it 2018? Something like that?
I want to say yes, around there. Yeah, it was a long time. That's what I'm saying. Like,
yeah.
It would have felt a little less of a gap if they had that for like a few months.
Oh, it's so interesting to think, like, did Humans have any songs in it that at one point in development were supposed to be Telltale game songs?
That could be. Like,
that's wild.
I part of me feels like it didn't get that far along to have that happen, but that is how Plastic Beach was. That was originally supposed to be like a different album that got scrapped, and they turned it kind of evolved into Plastic Beach.
Yeah, I mean, so much of Humans is like in reaction, at least they say it is, and I kind of believe it, I guess. It's in reaction to the sort of Trumpian 2016-17 fascist wave
right
across America and England.
Mm-hmm.
So it would be weird if there were songs in there that started that early. But I suppose it's possible.
Yeah, I would assume no, but it's interesting to think about.
Yeah, if anything, it's probably like melodic parts of a song and not like a whole song.
Man, you just made me think like how that would be insane to get like a Telltale Gorillaz song, but also you get new Gorillaz songs from it.
Yeah. Well, that's what's so interesting about Hard Day's Night and Help and Magical Mystery Tour by the Beatles movies. They just made some of the best albums of all time during that time where they were like, yeah, it's just the soundtrack to the movie we're making while we're making other music.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah, Help is a beautiful album, and they made it for the soundtrack of the movie at the same time as they were making Rubber Soul. And Magical Mystery Tour is one of the best albums of all time, and it's just the soundtrack to the movie in the same year that they made Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band, which is the best album of all time. Weird thing. weird thing they did.
Ain't life fucky like that?
Ain't life just be fucky sometimes?
Yeah, so Yondu's in this episode.
Yondu's in this episode. How do you feel about Yondu?
The way I don't know who it is who's playing him, but I feel like the way they're playing him is not quite... Because like, this is obviously based on the interpretations from the movies.
Right.
And I feel like whoever's voicing Yondu is like not quite there yet, but I guess I can let it slide because like he got a bigger role in 2, which had not come out. I get it was out before episode 2, right?
It had barely come out, yeah.
Right, so they still didn't like know Yondu, so I can't really fault him for not being like exactly how I am used to Yondu at that point. But it kind of took me back a little, but took me aback, rather. But I like that he was here. And he's not even like that important. He's just there to like fix their ship.
Yeah, I don't mind the performance so much. I think that the writing of Yondu here is very minimal.
Right.
Not like they're making huge mistakes or anything, but just Yondu shows up and you say hi to him and you're like, do you know what this Eternity Forge is? And he's like, no. And then you leave. Like that's...
You have provided no information to us.
Yeah, unless I'm forgetting something. Like he really does not move the plot.
Yeah, I mean, he saw the flashback that Peter had, but that's it. He didn't. He was just kind of like, whoa, that was weird.
Yeah, and because he saw that, I think it's clear that like he's gonna be involved at some point later on.
Yeah. So again, it might just be setting something up to come later.
Yeah, but like this episode is still a unit of game. You know, and when they put these out, you could buy just this one.
Yeah.
Which is weird to think about.
That is weird to do.
It is, yeah. it is weird to just buy episode 2 of the series.
It's not like Sam and Max where like they gave away Abe Lincoln Must Die, because those episodes like they do come together in a story, but those all are standalone episodes. Still, something like this, if you just play episode 2, that's a bad. You're not playing this game right, I think.
yeah. I'm trying to think of like if there's anything post Walking Dead that you could do that with. I feel like maybe Minecraft was closest, where you could just play an episode, like, but you still shouldn't. Like that doesn't make sense to do.
Yeah.
You could especially do that with the second half of that series, but that's the part you can't do that with. They didn't sell that individually. That was like a pass.
DLC pass.
Yeah. Huh. Weird. And then like nowadays they don't let you do it at all. The Expanse is sold as a season. New Tales from the Borderland is sold as a season.
Yeah. Anything on Steam, you can only they only sell them as seasons now, right? You can't just buy like individual episodes.
You know, if you go on Game Pass on Xbox, there's a lot of like Walking Dead individual episodes. But they're like all there, and also the season pass is listed there too. So like, well, why?
That's a strange way to do it.
It is a strange way to do it. I think it's just because
just some weird leftovers from how they used to do things.
Yeah, because they came out like on the Xbox One store, so they're just still there. Like, why take them off?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. It wouldn't make much sense to remove the option to do it, but it is weird to see it there.
Yeah, I mean, I guess to be fair, you can't get this now like at all.
Yeah, oh yeah, that's a great point. You can really only get it as a season because you can only get it
physically
as a physical disc.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ain't life funny?
Yeah. Speaking of funny, Yondu really wasn't. He didn't have a lot of jokes.
I always like reading his emails. I like those emails.
The emails are great, yeah. But like, there's a bunch of characters who you don't see who are sending emails, like Cosmo the dog and Howard the duck. Yeah, and like Yondu,
he's just here.
He's straight up there on the ship sometimes, and I'm still just getting like Cosmo the dog level importance from him.
Yeah. I did like his email this time. First of all, I like that he calls Gamora Gamanda.
Yeah, that's good.
His email says, "Please tell Gamanda I am very available."
Yeah, he's like interested in her and can't remember her name. That's pretty good.
Yeah.
Yeah, and like he must know that Peter Quill is like sort of quasi dating Gamora, not fully officially or anything, but
well, it seems like he's introducing them for the first time in this, because whenever they meet up with him, he introduces him to his friends.
It does. Yeah, I had a hard time reading that, but I think that's a legitimate read. I kind of thought like Yondu knew of these people, he just didn't like. He doesn't hang out with them.
He didn't know them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it seems like the Guardians of the Galaxy is something he's known about, and most people have known about. He
just doesn't know them individually.
Yeah, yeah. He loves Gamanda.
Gamonda's great.
Yeah, but like he shows up to like ask his dad, "Hey, I saw my mom in this cup. What's up?" And then he's like, "Oh yeah, I don't know." Very dad style. Like, yeah, that's fucky.
That's crazy.
I don't know.
Good luck with that.
Yeah, you should fly somewhere. I'll stay here though.
Yeah, good luck with your ship or whatever.
Yeah, and then
I liked that scene with him and Rocket where you think they just like straight up hate each other, and then it turns out, oh no, Rocket's been talking with Yondu for like a long time now.
Oh yeah, because like at this point in the episode, you haven't got any of those very redeeming Rocket flashbacks we talked about already. So he's got a gun pointed at Yondu, and I've written on my notes here like, Jesus Christ, this little fur won't stop attacking everyone.
Whoa, and then it's like, oh no, never mind, it's all good, we were just fucking with you.
Yeah, they know each other very well, apparently. Rocket sells him black market electronics all the time.
That's fun, I like that.
Yeah, that is cool. It makes space feel very small.
Yeah, I like when you just have characters who have a history that you haven't seen.
Yeah, it's interesting with sci-fi stuff because like the number of individuals in this galaxy should be so vast and so far apart. That like these connections don't happen, but like you still like to see them happen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can I just say?
Yes, you may.
I'm still not used to Gamora's design. I know I harped on it in the first episode, but she just looks like just a regular person with that ponytail.
With just especially with the way the color of her face is done. Like she's got green skin for her whole body, but then she's got just like normal skin-colored skin for around her eyes, which really makes it look like it's just makeup over her body.
You are painted.
Yeah, she's just painted herself to look. I guess
she just wanted to look like an alien because they're going around in space.
She wanted to blend in with aliens. Yeah.
You're all like green, right?
They're green adjacent.
Yeah, there's
the
Great Gazoo.
Yeah, there's the one they found in Los Alamos. He's got like the big sort of light bulb head. He's green.
Yeah, perfect. She's got this down.
Yeah, she understands space.
Something else. I do hope, even though I feel like Rocket was great in this episode, and I do like Gamora, I hope we get some conflict between other characters next time, because I feel like in both episode 1 and 2, it's come down to, are you on Rocket's side or Gamora's side? And
I've got some Drax conflict in this episode.
Oh, I totally forgot. Yeah, I did get some of that too, but like I feel like you could get like, okay, well now what if I have to choose between Drax and Groot? Drax and Groot are so wildly different.
No, it's just going to be Rocket, Gamora, and Drax, because like you play as Peter, Nebula is like a threat kind of, and Groot is not a character.
I liked Groot in this episode, though.
I like him. He's not a character. Like he needs, to say things to be a character.
Right. But I liked how you could talk to him later in the episode, and like I like seeing Peter in particular interact with Groot, since you don't get a lot of that in the movies because he's not really a character.
Yeah.
So just seeing these two hanging out and having a conversation, and like, oh no, these two are friends, even if they can't exactly communicate with one another. I like that a lot.
Yeah, you can tell that Groot's like...
He's part of the game.
There has been some variance in how Marvel has presented Groot. Sometimes Groot is sort of like a naturalistic force. But in the movies and in this game, he is a guy. He's got a full brain upstairs. He has opinions about things. And can understand any language that people are speaking to him, but he just can't produce language other than I am Groot. Other than Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, in that movie, he says, "I love you guys," right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good for him.
Good for him. That's tough.
Yeah, that's a tough thing to say.
Yeah, because it's not I Am Groot.
You can see how it would get tough.
Yeah, it would be. It would be difficult. It would be about as difficult as anything else.
That's true.
Reckon, but still hard.
I do hope. I don't know what's going to happen in the rest of this season, but I think it would be very cool if they could give Groot like some sort of important thing to do, some sort of like foot in this story. I don't know if they can because all he says is I am Groot, but I think that'd be neat. Like all of a sudden it's like, oh Groot, what's important to you right now?
Yeah, and then like he just unfurls a map. He's got this big plan.
He totally detours the story to do something else entirely.
Yeah. So, okay, guys, I am Groot. We're gonna go get the gems. He's got gems to get.
Look, I know Thanos' body just got taken or whatever, but we gotta go on this treasure hunt to find the 8 trees.
If you don't find the 8 trees, I'll have to go home. Ew.
I do not want to say hi to them.
I do not want to go home.
And Peter's just like, guys, we gotta do it.
There's a major choice in this episode. We should talk about that. Once you're kind of like all settled with the knowledge of like, okay, this is the Eternity Forge. It brings people back from the dead. We just talked to Yondu about it. He did not help. And you're given 2 options of what to do first. You have to do both, I believe. But you can choose either to help out Rocket, who like admits, hey, look, I know it's not the strategic option, but I want to try bringing back a friend of mine. I got it. She's important to me. And then like that's when you do the whole Lila side quest thing. Which, by the way, does not work. You cannot bring Lila back. I don't know why the Eternity Forge didn't work in that moment. I'm sure we'll find out.
It's because it needed to be charged, remember? They had to...
Oh, right,
it was out of the juice.
Yeah, it needed juice.
Out of the soul juice or whatever.
Which makes me think like, okay, well now that they know, are they going to go back or are they just going to chalk that one up as a failure?
Yeah, I wonder. Because it seems like they could just go again now that they know how to make it work.
Yeah.
At the same time, though, I was kind of thinking, like, should he do this? Because I guess it worked for Peter just fine, but did they forget the part where someone has to die?
Yeah, but, like, people are dying, you know? Like, people are dying around
people
them.
Be dying.
People be dying around them at, like, their fault.
That's
lot.
True.
So
that's true.
You don't need to actively try to recharge it. You can passively do it.
That's true. Maybe it's not a big deal. It's only a big deal if you're the Kree and you're trying to bring back like millions of people.
I'm sure they're going to present it as a big deal, but like we've seen a lot of like Nova Corp people died in this episode,
right?
And like that you could have used that.
Yeah, you could have said like, you know what? These people ain't using these lives. How about we can put them to better use?
So that's one choice with Rocket. The other is that Nebula has just come back, and she's trying to get Thanos' body, which we just gave to the Nova Corps.
Right.
Because you can give Thanos' body to the Collector instead, I don't know what happens there.
Yeah, I don't know. I guess I'll find out because my roommate Andrew and my other roommate Adam have been playing it at the same time. And I believe Andrew went with the Collectors. So
okay.
I guess we'll see.
Has he played episode 2 yet?
Not yet. He's going to.
Oh, okay, cool. Yeah, that would be interesting to know. By the way, you can just call the Collector at any time in this episode too.
Oh, really? I didn't know that. You can just call him?
Yeah, you can go to the tablet in the bridge of the ship, and you can call the Collector, and the Collector is like assistant. She answers the phone, and she's like, "Hello, do you need anything?" And Peter's like, "Oh, no." She's like, "Okay, bye."
See ya. Thanks for wasting my time.
Yeah.
That's interesting. Yeah, I didn't know that. I only read the emails.
Yeah, and if you can call the Nova Corps if you gave it to the Nova Corps last episode. You can call them and warn them, "Hey, Nebula's coming. You need to get ready."
Oh, I guess I should have done that. I didn't.
I did it, but like I got there, and then
You feel like it didn't help?
There's one line of dialogue where Peter's like, "Hey, Rooks," the Nova Corps guy you're talking to. "Hey, Rooks, I warned you. She's coming. Why are you very losing?" And he's like, "Yeah, she's very strong."
Man,
it didn't help to know.
Yeah, man, we're just not good, I think.
We're just not good. So those are like the two thrusts of this episode. Once you do that, both of those things, where you get you sort of console Rocket about Lila because he can't bring her back, but Nebula can get on the ship. I wonder if you can not get her, potentially. I don't know.
Well, I kind of feel like if you weren't going to be able to get her, I feel like I probably wouldn't have gotten her because I did Rocket's thing first. It seemed like it was setting it up. So like, oh, you chose to do Rocket's thing first? Well, now Nebula is really just screwing these guys up. It felt like if they were going to do that, that would have been the time to make it so she doesn't get on your ship.
Yeah.
But maybe.
I think the choice consequence that results from doing Rocket's thing first has nothing actually to do with how you handle Nebula, and everything to do with the fact that Gamora is now pretty pissed off that you prioritized doing what is effectively just like a gesture for Rocket over trying to get her still alive sister and her back on better terms. Maybe they're on better terms if you do her first.
I think I would assume that, maybe. Yeah, because you did this Rocket. I almost said Rocco.
Oh,
sorry. I've been playing Nickelodeon All-Star Brawl 2.
Do you play as Rocco?
Yeah, Rocco's in it.
No, do you play as Rocco?
I wish. I'm not. I love
you
Rocco.
Just can. What do you mean?
I'm not good with him.
Oh, okay,
I love Rocco. I tried him, and I just did not. He just didn't gel with me. But
I wish is a very funny answer to that question, though.
I wish. But yeah,
I can't
doing
afford
this thing.
Him.
You got to be in the big leagues if you want to play Rocco. No, but Rocket, it doesn't even work. Like, this whole thing you did for him, you went out of your way to do this first, and it doesn't even work out. It's pointless to do, but it's such a good scene that I couldn't imagine not doing it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's
if I were to replay this, I would just always do this just because I love how this plays out.
Yeah, and besides, Nebula and Gamora kind of make up by the end of this episode, even with us having fumbled a little bit of the Nebula thing. Like at the end of this episode, there's a Kree invasion on the Milano, and they can turn invisible and back pretty quickly, which is a cool aspect of the fight. But while they're fighting, Nebula's like, okay, so I'm on the ship. You should probably just let me go so I can help fight. And I chose to let her go. Did you do that? So she helped me fight.
Oh, Nebula?
Yeah.
Yeah, she helped me fight. I let her go. So
okay, gotcha.
Yeah, I was confused at first. I couldn't remember if like you were talking about an earlier scene, but yeah, later on, I had her fight. I was like, why wouldn't I? I like Nebula. I mean, she obviously could have turned on us there, and it would have been a good idea to not let her, but I did, and it worked out.
Yeah, so there's the Rocket thing and the Nebula thing, which you can do in either order, and then after that, there's the Kree invasion on the Milano, and then after that, there's the very last part of the episode where you go to where the Eternity Forge has sort of hinted at Peter through the voice of his mother of where to go, and it's this temple on like this abandoned asteroid way out in No Man's Sky, and you get there, you see something interesting, but we don't see what it is because the episode fades to white. Interestingly enough, doesn't fade to black, fades to white, and then that's the end of the episode.
That's a good spot to end it. I think it really leaves you wanting to see what it is.
I felt like it was a weird end.
Okay, I guess I get that, but
yeah,
I don't know. I thought it worked. I was kind of thinking like when they were going into that temple, I was like, so at what point are they going to cut it off? Are we going to see what it is? Are we going to get interrupted by something else? I feel like cutting it off right before you see what it is they see, that's a good cliffhanger.
Yeah, Gamora goes, "Peter, look." And then the credits roll. I think maybe just that line, the writing of that, it was like so obtusely kind of unguiding that I felt weird about it. That said, yeah, like I don't really think they could have gone on much longer. It was about at the length that I thought the episode could sustain itself. So
right,
it was the time to do it.
Yeah, you were saying earlier that you had some conflict with Drax. I did too. I'm guessing it's because you let Gamora watch Nebula.
Yeah, so last episode, there's a choice between bringing Drax or bringing Gamora to fight Hala. And that one I really was pretty 50-50 on, but I took Gamora. And then... Oh, what?
Oh, go ahead.
Well, what did you do?
Oh, I was just going to say, I just immediately was like, I think Gamora should watch her. Drax, you're not, like, good for this, I think. You want to kill her.
Oh, no, I'm talking about last episode. The going to Hala.
Right.
Yeah, going to fight Hala. So I brought Gamora for that, and I could have brought Drax, I just sort of didn't. It was an arbitrary choice, mostly. And then this episode, it was not at all an arbitrary choice of like, yeah, exactly what you said. Drax wants to kill Nebula, and Gamora is her sister. She deserves this. Like, of course it should be her.
Yeah, Drax
you
was saying,
shouldn't
like,
feel weird about it not being you. Like, it's also not me. It's just going to be her.
Yeah, I'm choosing to bring you along with this.
Yeah, but because of those two different choices where Drax has felt like... Drax's whole arc here is that he has helped kill Thanos. Although he is a little self-conscious about the fact that technically Peter killed Thanos. His whole life goal was avenging his family. He did it, and now he feels like he is useless. He does not have... use doing anything with the rest of the group. People don't come to him for things because he was the warrior and their enemy is dead.
Right. Now he has no one to avenge, no one to fight.
Yeah. So the fact that it sounds like both of us chose Gamora over Drax twice in a row for things he thought he would be good at, he's very upset about it.
Right. And I guess I get it. Like, Drax, I'm sorry. I love you. I love Drax. But don't get bent out of shape about this. Like, this in particular.
Yeah.
you were not good for this. Your argument for saying you should watch Nebula was you have twice as many knives.
Yeah, I did. Like,
you did the opposite of. Yeah, you did the opposite of selling me on this. Yeah.
I think some Telltale games need a special button on the controller where you can be like, come on, dude.
Look, if you could just look at it from like a logical point of view.
Yeah, like sometimes you can't do that with people. Like if they're completely crazed, like if they're the dairy farmers from Walking Dead or whatever, like clearly these people are mere days into the zombie apocalypse. They're already completely gone. Like, we're not going to reason with them, but like Drax is my friend, and I should be, even though he's like a weirdly stoic, hard to talk to kind of guy by design, I should still be able to be like, dude, it's her sister. Just easy.
It actually, Drax, it actually makes complete sense when you like think about it for 5 seconds, though.
Yeah, you should have tried thinking about it at all.
Yeah, I can see where you went wrong, but
yeah, and there's
try next time.
We're getting more and more of them at this part of. I think those moments are a very natural and perma occurring part of the writing process. They must be on these Telltale games, and the polishing process of these scripts must involve a lot of trimming those down or softening them out. So, like, you can't not have them, at least at first. And if a game doesn't have them, it's because it had them and got rid of them. So I understand it must be a very difficult thing to write all of these choices. But at the same time, like, I don't feel... It's very hard to play these choices straight when there's characters who are reacting to them in irrational ways.
I agree. At the same time, at least in this one particular instance, it's not like Drax is like totally on your ass about it. It's not like Rocket in episode 1.
I
like,
mean,
he's
we'll see,
just
though,
like,
right? Like, we'll see, like, in episode 3, if Drax is like, I'm leaving team. And like,
I'm leaving team.
I'll have to be like, yeah, I guess you leave team. It's like, if that's what did it for you, I can't not do that. So, yeah,
right.
You're leaving team.
But he just seems like a little dejected. Like, he's still like laughing with Peter. He's still like talking with Peter. He just feels like a little left. It doesn't seem like he like hates Peter right now or anything. He's just a little unhappy. It's not like I don't think he's like super unreasonable, right? He's a little unreasonable.
Yeah, I think but we don't know how much of a skateboard score this game has yet.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see. Right now, I'm thinking, Drax, I'm sorry you're upset, but you'll get over it. But who knows? Maybe he won't.
Yeah, because like the whole thing with the skateboard score in New Tales from the Borderlands was there was this very visible, even though it was hard to tell why you were affecting it, score of like how close the team is tight-knit to each other.
Right.
And in Guardians of the Galaxy, it feels like there's that too, because especially in episode 1, not as much this episode, but in the first episode, the like the priority given to you as the player is, can you keep this team together long enough to have everyone's strengths so you can use them all the time?
Right.
And like, I feel like I did some good management of my skateboard score with Gamora and Rocket. Because episode 1, I gave Gamora a lot, and this time I had to not give her so much.
Right. I'm right. I feel like I'm right there with you in those. I feel like I was a little more on Rocket's side than you were, but I still did like what Gamora wanted to do at the end of the episode.
Yeah.
So,
if there is a skateboard score deficit that I have, it is definitely from Drax right now. I've upset him.
Right. Well, it sounds like you recovered from Rocket at least.
I think he seems very happy. Gamora is currently upset about her current thing, but I feel like she should recognize that I've done more for her than not.
Right.
Drax, Drax is just upset.
Yeah, Drax I feel like I could do a little more for, but he's not given me much reason to just yet.
Yeah, maybe he needs to quit team.
I hope he doesn't quit team. I like him.
I don't mind.
Oh, no, I like him. He eats the cookies. We laugh, we clap.
Do we want to talk about our segments?
Okay, are we at that point already? Is there anything else in the episode we need to... I guess not. I guess we covered all the stuff. We captured Nebula.
Mm-hmm.
We talked about going through the thing. I guess we are at our segments.
What's your golden moment?
Rocket's flashback. It was just so well done. Just like I put it up there with those emotional scenes in Walking Dead. It got me pretty good. Even though it is done in a more fleshed out way in movie 3, I think I could appreciate that. Oh, they did it first and in a way that really hit.
Yeah. I suppose it is first. It's like the first time it's ever happened in a visual medium. There was that Guardians of the Galaxy cartoon. I wonder if they did it, but
I forget when that cartoon came. Was that before the second movie? I never really saw it.
You know, I feel like the second movie was kind of the time where everything was hitting to the point where there's now. I think a lot of people would feel that there's quite a bit of Guardians of the Galaxy brand dilution. That it's just not as powerful as it used to be.
I guess I get that considering that at the time they had a game and a cartoon series and movies, and now they really just have the movie.
Yeah, well after this game, there was a whole other like massive AAA game that it didn't do as
like
well.
The Square Enix one.
Made by Crystal Dynamics. Well, now it's Embracer's game. Yeah, because Crystal Dynamics is over there now.
I wonder if I'll probably play that at some point. I know Andrew really likes that one.
Everyone who's played it says it's actually very, very good. But it's one of those games of like, it is hard to prioritize when there's so much coming out all the time.
Yeah. Exactly. And I love Guardians of the Galaxy, but I don't know if I love it so much that I would choose to play it over like other games coming out.
Yeah. I might someday. It looks
Oh
pretty
yeah, I will someday. Just like it would have to be at a time when there's like no other games that I really like coming out.
Yeah, and I've noticed like from what I've seen of the game, there's quite a bit of Telltale feeling like choices in there, but it's an action game.
That's what I hear. Like Adam played it and he says exactly that. He says it feels like there's a lot of Telltale DNA in there.
That's cool. I mean, that's a cool that's a cool format, like an action game with that.
Yeah.
My golden moment is probably the same.
Okay. I mean, it's just such a good scene.
I went a little with what I wrote down though. I went a little more micro than that, and specifically when Peter uses the time replayer or whatever when they're trying to catch up with Hala, and he sees like a hologram of what Hala did, and Drax immediately thinks it's actually Hala, and he goes to tackle Peter for no reason. I just thought that was a fun moment.
That was good.
Yeah.
That was a good scene.
He's like, I saved you. And Peter's like, she's a hologram. It's very obvious. She doesn't even... She's blue.
Yeah,
and like, I guess she's regularly blue.
Yeah, like how mad can Drax be at you if he saved you from what he thought was real?
Yeah. You know what? I hadn't thought about it until literally right now, but her skin is blue and the hologram is blue. So it does...
So you can see how he would make that mistake.
Yeah. Yeah, I like that moment. But yeah, in terms of like larger scenes, like, you're totally right. It's the rocket, the whole rocket thing.
Yeah. Oh, it just killed me. It was so good. And just the way he just like breaks down and cries at the great, or when he does it when he can't fix his little computer thing.
Yeah.
And he, like, it just means so much to him. And big bad Rocket just breaking down and crying.
Weekly Guy.
I mean, I had to give it to Rocket. I'm going to be honest with you, Mitchell. This is going to be a very Rocket-centered segments from Dustin.
Sure. I give it to Rooks.
Rooks was next. Yes, I did write down Rooks.
The Nova Corps
He is
fanboy.
very fun. Yeah, if Rocket didn't have it so good in this episode, I would have given it to Rooks. I like his idea, just how... like, Peter's trying to get him to not shoot at Nebula because they need her, and he's just like, well, you know, I kind of have to. Oh, shit.
I think for episode 1, I gave it to, quote, Nova Corps Guy, so I might have just given it to Rooks twice in a row.
That's fine, I gave it to Rocket twice in a row.
Or, I guess not in a row. Oh my god, I completely forgot that we did Archangel between episode 1 and 2.
Oh my god, you're right. So it's been even longer since we did episode 1 of this. Wow.
Yeah, we've been... It does.
I gotta be honest.
I
totally blanked that we even did that. It left so little of an impression on me. I forgot we even did it.
I feel exactly the opposite. I forgot that we had started Guardians of the Galaxy. I remembered Archangel.
Interesting.
Yeah. Yeah. So choice cut. I'm gonna go with it. It's another Rocket choice, but it's not the one like. Do you do Rocket first or Nebula first? There's a part where he's crying after his hand thing, like his hand computer broke, and he's like, "This is the last thing I had of her. I just can't deal with it." And you have the choice to tell Rocket like, "Hold on to her," or "Let her go." And I felt like that was just a really mature way to do that. When I would have expected the choice to be like, "Oh, cheer up." Or,
come on, buddy.
You're going to be sad for a while.
Sucks, man.
We all have our deaths.
So what did you tell him?
I told him to hold on to Lila.
That's what I said too. That's like it's obviously something that's important to him. I feel like he can get over it and like move on as a person while still like having it be an important thing to him.
Yeah, she's going to be an important part of his psyche for the rest of his life.
Yeah, he can't just like close her out, push her away.
Yeah.
Totally agree. That's a great one. Mine's also a Rocket choice. I feel bad not picking yours, but I did like this one too. It's just so it is whether or not you pick to do his thing or Gamora's thing. But the reason I like it is because they really try to have you reconsider. So
they make you do it twice.
Yeah, I promised Rocket that I would do this for him. But then, like, twice, the game is like, are you sure? You should... And even Gamora's like, Nebula could probably kill, like, thousands of these Nova Corps guys. Like, it's really, actually, probably a bad idea to do Rocket's thing. Especially since you find out it doesn't work.
Uh-huh.
But, you know, I was still like, nah, I gotta do it, sorry. Yeah, I thought that was fun. I thought it was interesting how they're like, you should probably think about this. But I was just like, I made a promise to my friend. It's something that's obviously very important to him. I feel like we gotta stick to... I don't even care about the Nova Corps. I don't know these people.
Yeah, it's an interesting, like, role-playing moment for Peter Quill. Where you get to say, look, my priority's Rocket right now. Those Nova Corps guys can probably die, and that's, you know...
Sucks, but, you know...
I would choose for them to not, in a vacuum, but...
Right, if I didn't just promise Rocket I would do this, then maybe, but...
Yeah, there's other factors on the line. Friendship.
Yeah, sorry.
Sorry, bud.
I guess a few thousand lives are worth losing.
I couldn't exactly tell what the scope of this Gamora fight or Nebula fight was, because when you go there, there's like a few ships flying around, and Nebula has one of the Nova Corps ships, which has made it a lot more confusing to watch. Like it's hard to keep track of.
Totally. And here's the thing, I don't think they say that many people died. I think Gamora was just, like, implying it. She was like, so many people could die if you don't do exactly what I want.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a cool choice because, like, it's one of those choices where they really lean on you, like, there is a right choice here, but you can just not do it. And you might feel a reason to not do it, but, like, you gotta concede it's pretty not correct, and we both did it. We both did the not correct one.
Yeah, it's just one of those things where, like, I don't give two shits about the Nova Corps, but I do care about Rocket and what's going on with him, so even though that's probably, like, the right thing to do, it's not what I want to do.
There's also the fact that, like, we weren't late, because I did the Rocket stuff, and then I came back to the ship, and I went to the bridge command, and I found out that I could call the Nova Corps. So I did that, and I warned them that Nebula was coming, and she still hadn't come yet. And then I immediately went there. So, like, we weren't late. I had
there.
confirmation from a phone call that she had not come yet after I did the Rocket stuff.
Oh, she didn't get there yet?
No, that's what I'm saying. I warned them that Nebula's coming between doing the Rocket stuff and the Nova Corps stuff, and she had not come there yet. I warned them, and they're like, okay, I'll be on guard. Oh,
interesting. Maybe I missed something, but I thought I heard them say Gamora was already there by the time we were going there for me.
Well, Nebula,
yeah. Whoops.
Yeah, but you didn't warn him.
Yeah, I didn't warn him. That's where I went wrong.
Yeah, I think that's this episode.
Yeah, I liked it. I feel like I already said it at the beginning of the episode, but even though it is just more of a setup episode, there are some really good, strong scenes in this. And, you know, I like Nebula a lot as a character. I like that she's there. I liked seeing that scene with Rocket. That was very strong. Just a good, solid episode, I think.
You know what?
I think I would agree, even though I did like last week's episode, or the first episode of Guardians, more than you did. I would still say I like this one more.
I think that a challenge they're going to have as this series goes forward is that, like, it is maybe too immediately obvious to the player that it's a bad thing to bring these dead people back. So we're going to be tempted to be like, do you want to bring Star-Lord's mom back? And I'm going to say no, you know?
Yeah, because I know what could happen if I do.
Like, I can tell this is going to be a trap to do, or like, the emotional, ethical exchange for what will be required will be too much.
Well, it's funny you mention that, because at the end of the episode, you're talking with Rocket, and he says, do you think that's your mom down there telling you to go to that temple?
Mm-hmm.
You can say, like, no, I don't think it is.
Yeah, I said that.
Like, yeah, but we still need to see what it is.
Uh-huh, yeah.
So I think they're at least giving Peter enough credit to be like, okay, well, first of all, I know that's not my mom.
Mm-hmm.
And at least I don't think they ever outright say, but I at least believe that Peter would know that even if he could bring his mom back, he probably should not. Although they were like ready to bring Lila back.
Prediction time.
Okay.
Are we going to see Thanos be revived by the end of the season?
I think so. Part of me wants to say, otherwise, why would they send his body off? I feel like they have to have some sort of, or at least maybe like someone wants to bring him back.
Mm-hmm.
Like Thanos, I think will be a factor whether or not he does come back. Part of me feels like he's too big a character to leave dead, but it is kind of its own continuity for this series, so who knows what they could do.
I just like it too much that they immediately killed Thanos. It's good.
Yeah.
I really hope they don't. I don't want to see it.
Yeah, I think so too. I'm prepared if they do, because it seems like such an easy thing to have happen.
Yeah, I think I'm there with you. Well, that's been this episode of Telling the Tale. Thank you for listening. If you liked the show, you can subscribe to us anywhere you listen to your podcasts. We're just about everywhere.
Except there.
Oh, yeah, we don't go there. Not anymore.
Yeah, don't go there.
Yeah, come on, guys. So that's Guardians of the Galaxy Episode 2, Under Pressure. We'll come at you next week with Guardians of the Galaxy Episode 3, whatever that one's called. And until that time, have a great summer.
Have a great summer!